Hey kids! In today's episode in our Getting Started series, we're going to talk about colors. Not setting colors, no. I'm a developer wearing a gray shirt. I am not someone who should be telling you how to do that. But I will tell you a way to future-proof your application to get ready for those inevitable color changes. Okay, so why are we here? What problem are we looking to solve today? As we all know, the inevitable is going to happen with our Power Apps. We are going to have to make changes after we get something submitted back to our users and get them to review what it is we've built. Now, it sort of goes without saying that change is inevitable. And again, being a developer and not a designer, I take my best guess with colors, so I pretty much assume that they're going to change at some point in the process of building an app. So I placed a button on the screen, and we all know how colors work. You set the fill, you set the color, you set the border color, and it's some color, right? Now, this works, of course, but it's not what we want to do, because making changes to colors within our app when it's built this way doesn't help us, because it's inconvenient to go and change them, to find every element on every screen and adjust the color of red that we've put in there. So how do we best future-proof our apps in order to be able to make changes to our color scheme without having to essentially rewrite the entire app? Well, we have a couple of methods, okay? Early on, I followed the idea that we need to set up base examples of our form elements, of our screen elements. So essentially we make hero copies of everything we do. And we see that here. I've gone ahead and made 4 different elements, 3 buttons and 1 text box. And with this I have set, if you look, for example, I've set the fill and the colors to specific things on these buttons. So this concept says, okay, if we have a button, instead of setting the fill color or border color, we do our hero button dot fill. We just match the corresponding elements. So if we have buttons, for example, we have 2 or 3 scattered about this screen or different screens. If we have to make changes, we just go to our hero button, change our fill color or whatever other property to dark red, in this case, go back, and boom, our colors are changed. This works fine. The problem is, if you do it right, you have to make example elements for everything you do. So here's your text box. You're going to need drop downs. You're going to need data tables. You're going to need forms. If you do it right so you can see everything you're building, you're going to need copies. And that works great. However, it gets to be a lot to have to preset. Also, depending on the application, you may get a performance warning noting that you are referencing elements that have on screens that have not been drawn yet. I've not seen this be a big problem with performance, but it's still something that needs to be addressed as apps get bigger. So what's another way to do this? One thing I have found, being a programmer, I want a class. I want something I can reference that gives me almost an IntelliSense type interaction that describes what it is I'm doing. So what I've begun doing is in my app on start, setting a variable that will be a theme. So if I do var my theme, we can set JSON objects that can reference our colors. So we come in here, spread that out, and if we say we want to establish our colors, we do sub.json, and we can do, for example, this. What we see here is we've established a theme. We've established a color object within said theme object. And we've done a fill and a color property. We've done it to dark red and into white. What this does for us, if we do our on start real quick, get our ants marching and establish this, we can come in here and set our properties to our mytheme.colors.fill. And we can establish this as well in our other elements. So fill. So we're no longer referencing that hero object that we have in our base item screen. We have it so where we have an identifiable theme name, we have a colors object, and then we have a property that we can assign to. To me, this is something I can read. I can see this and understand what color it is I'm using. Now, if we want to change that, we're not going to the button properties per se. We're coming here and we're saying we want to make it blue. We run our on start, reestablish our variable, and boom, our buttons are blue. So you can see here we can establish as elaborate a theme as we want to. Something I've done as an example. So we have the my theme. If we bring up something else I've done, we see here that I've done pre-done a theme and I've set in a lot of colors. So here now I have screen backgrounds, I have my hero, my lesser, my cancel. You can put in as many things as you want to set your theme color scheme. And what this does is allow for a little bit more granular level of what you want to set up within your site, within your application, sorry. So here now, if we come to our button, much the same way we refer, our theme.colors, and we see here all of the elements that I have established within this JSON object are now here as referenceable targets. So we could say hero fill, and boom, we have that. To see this in action a little deeper than on buttons, I've built a screen that has a few elements in it. And we can see here that I've established 3 themes, but it's also spread out over a couple of different types of objects. We have radio buttons, we have standard buttons, we have a data table, all using these themes. And so if I need to make changes, for example, if I need to come back and say, well, that peach isn't quite what I want, I'm going to do my hero fill to just 73, for example. We come back here, we rerun our on start, and immediately everywhere we use that color is now changed throughout our application. Now, why would you do this? Other than the easiness of having this available and the relative ease of which you can change it, what do you gain? So one thing that I find important, and you can kind of see it established here, is since we're developing applications not just for Power Apps and not just for SharePoint, but we can also develop applications for Teams. And Teams has a variable we can pull in our Power App that notes if we're in dark mode or not. So you can have multiple themes. You can have a dark theme. You see here, I've gone to Windows 3.1. I've done the hot dog stand theme. You can have as many as you want. So whether or not you want to present options of changing your theme to your users is up to you. But at least you have the ability to set a color scheme and set more than one. So now we see here, I set my main theme. I have an overall variable for var theme. I set that to the main theme. And then below that, I bring in my other themes to be set up for use later. After this text, after this code, I could look into if I'm in Teams and if I'm in dark mode, and if so, I can change my default theme to match. How does this work? So we could see here, if we hit play, I've triggered these radio buttons with my themes. Simply changing the designation here swaps that variable over, and my color schemes change with it. Throw back to Windows 3.1, and we have our hot dog theme if you want to go that far. But you can at least see here how easy these things change simply by having them defined as JSON objects in your app on start. I hope this has helped. I look forward to comments in the future. And hopefully, start over. So where do you go from here? I use variables. You could, if you want to, use a collection. That would give you the flexibility of changing these variables in runtime. That's up to you, and of course, I keep them as variables because, let's say, my colors don't change during the runtime of an app, so I just established these in place. I would like to note that you need to set these colors as topmost as you can in app.onStart. One thing to note, that if there is any kind of error or delay in loading these colors, you will see them go to black as they are not established. So if your colors are set low in your app on start, especially after maybe some heavy data load, you will see it go from black to the colors, and that's not exactly the best user experience. It is a nice way to test for bugs in your app on start, I will admit, because you will see that happen. So we corrected our bug and now our colors are back. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.